Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's August 26, 2024. And as we were saying, we are seeing some very clear trends going into the fall. It's a couple of things I wanted to notice here, but let's just start. Total active listings, 2,155. Look at these numbers. This was 2022, 2023. So we are 19% up over last year. Okay. We've got 263 total new listings in the last 7 days. Pretty close to what we had last year, but we are up 11%. But not the huge divide that I think we see here in total active listings in Allegheny County. Total pendings, 238, which is down clearly from last year, and from 2022, we're down 4% from last year. Total sales in the last 7 days, we're down 24%. I'm not super surprised by that number if you just kind of zoom out. Everybody, in the summer is traveling and whatnot. But at the same time, when you're seeing all these huge numbers here in total new active listings, or just active listings in general in terms of inventory, and the red that we're seeing here, this concerns me almost more than the sales, because the sales are what? They're an indication of 30, 40, 60 days ago of what got listed, right? Total pendings is usually, I would say the majority of them are what got listed last week, maybe even the week before. So we're seeing these big numbers here in the red of pendings. We're staying even from last week in days on market. We saw a dramatic increase here in average sale price. There was a 2.5 that sold in Fox Chapel last week, 2.5 million. So we did see quite a bit of big dollar properties sell last week. Here are the other numbers that are telling a story. 639 price reductions last week, three times the amount of price reductions that we saw last year. And look at this sales price to list price ratio. We're going down. This is going to be a continued indicator of where the buyer's market is going to be at. We will see more seller assists. And what we are going to not be able to factor in here is the change in the NAR rulings. How is that going to affect the sales price to list price ratio? Just the mentality of sellers. I'm not going to offer a commission. I'm not going to offer concessions. But the reality is it's going to be a transition. Buyers are still going to be like, all right, you can act like that. I'm not making offers. That's what we're seeing. So how can we have that conversation with our sellers when we have a listing appointment and they're like, I don't want to do that? Well, we can go to these numbers and we can show them, look at all these people that are listing and look who's buying. Do you want to set yourself apart? Especially if somebody needs to move quickly. If they need to move quickly, we need to have a conversation about how to pull this data in that specific area that they're listing, find out what their sales price to list price ratio is, and reduce their price 3.5%. Hit that sweet spot. Does that make sense? Because if this is what things are selling for versus what they listed for, if they sold exactly right, we know this number means it would be 100%. If it lists for 100,000 and it sells for 100,000, that's 100%. Lists for 250, sells for 250, that's 100%. These things are selling in Allegheny County, single family homes, 3.36% below their list price. The random factors could be inspection negotiations or appraisals, but in general, that's the number. You can inundate your clients with data most of the time, and they'll listen to you. Also talking to people about the price reduction number, and number of expireds. Look at that, 167 when we only had 65 last year. That makes sense when you're seeing all these numbers go up, but at the same time, expireds, I don't know, most people sign a 1-year listing contract. There may be agents out there doing 30, 60, 90 days. That could explain why this is coming up. I don't know. We still have about 300 fewer agents in the MLS than we did last year. Wonder what they're all doing. What could they have done differently during the time that they were an agent to still be in this MLS? And look at that. These numbers are going to make a liar out of me. In an election year, we're going to see these numbers go down, I think. Well, it's what I'm hearing anyway. So a good conversation when you're talking to somebody, oh, well, interest rates are so high. Well, the average interest rate over the last 2 years is 7.08, so 7.1, and we're at 6.8. 2022, it's 5.7, but we were coming out of COVID, right? We were seeing 2s and 3s previously. Then we're in the 5.7 range, and then 7.6 this same time last year. We're almost a full point below what the interest rate was last year. So don't let anybody fool you with their national information. That's not the case locally. I had an open house yesterday, and I had some really good conversations about these exact numbers and got 3 buyers out of it. 3 buyers. So, even a brand new agent with very little experience can talk numbers and gain confidence and get that client. Look at Bianca. She freezing up there. She's got a little sweater. Does anybody have any questions about these numbers? Okay. Please make it. What's that, Mike?
I was just going to say, just once again, absolutely fascinating numbers, good things to see.
Yeah. Well, I love me some buyers. I really do think, they make the world go round. So one of the things that I read, there's an article, if I can find it, it came up when I was hosting my open and I was reading, somebody posted it on LinkedIn. So if I can find it, I'll shoot you guys an email. But just talking about interest rates and how what could happen here is if these interest rates, the magic number this economist was saying was 6%. So if 6% is what they call the magic number in terms of sellers getting off their whatever to go ahead and list because they want to downsize or upsize, but they just didn't want to get rid of their 2.5 or 3%. But at 6, they'll probably consider it. So what happens if we get this new influx of more inventory? Right? We're going to need the buyers to make up for it. So I don't know. It could be interesting to see if buyers are still willing to jump at it at 6%. So is the 6% magic number strictly for sellers, or is it also for the buyers? That they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll do this. It's going to be fun to watch. It always tells a story. So I hope you guys join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I'm teaching a class on the new listing contract and how it affects the agreement of sale. I think there will also be a component where we will talk about how to update your net sheets so that when you have a seller and you do your net sheet to remain compliant, right, Lauren? Talk about how to make sure you're putting those concessions in advance so your sellers can see how that affects their net. Everybody, I hope you had a lovely weekend. Thank you again for showing up today, and look forward to seeing you in the office tomorrow if you can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Everybody. My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.